One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Katherine Johnson was born in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia in 1918. During this time period, there was a lot of discrimination against those who were African American. In White Sulphur Springs, those of color were only provided with an education until the end of 8th grade, but this did not stop Katherine from chasing her dreams. Throughout her time in school, Katherine found a love for mathematics, and she knew she wanted to learn more. As a result, she enrolled in West Virginia State Institute, an African American college over 100 miles away from her hometown. She was able to graduate high school at 14 and graduate college by the age of 18 in 1937 with degrees in French and mathematics. After her college graduation, Katherine went on to become a high school teacher because of her passion. In 1939, at the age of 20, Katherine married the love of her life, James Francis Globe. Over the next 6 years, Katherine and James had their 3 daughters. Katherine was very interested in jobs at NASA. The first time NASA reviewed her application, there were no spots available. She decided to reapply the next year and got the position, which was outstanding considering how racist and sexist society was at the time. The first mission Katherine assisted with was in 1962, in which she calculated the trajectory for the Friendship 7 orbital flight of John Glenn. Most astronauts relied on computers to do these calculations, but Glenn did not trust technology, and specifically asked for Katherine to do them. Because of Katherine's great work, John Glenn was able to go into space and orbit around the Earth 3 times successfully. Katherine was also able to work alongside a team to send the first man to space. The 1960 election was won by the young senator from Massachusetts by the name of John F. Kennedy, who was brought into office in January 1961. He was an active partner in the NASA space program and signed off on many missions.
There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
This mission was named Apollo 11 and used the huge Saturn V rocket, which was the first to land a man on the moon by the name of Neil Armstrong. Katherine participated in this mission by doing the calculations and was so amazing at what she did that she was seen as a human computer. Apollo 11 came at a time when the United States was engaged with the Soviet Union in a nuclear Cold War. This also led to being competition for the space race between the two countries. Most of the technology for getting into space could also be used towards launching nuclear weapons. Getting to the moon first was a huge win for the United States and gave Americans a sense of pride. Landing Americans on the moon was one of the greatest accomplishments ever made. It took decades of work, perseverance, and tens of thousands of people working towards a common goal, and in the end was a triumph. Unfortunately, President Kennedy was not alive to see the completion of his goal that he had set back in 1961, to land these Americans safely on the moon, but his speech is often replayed and followed by the words, "Task accomplished," in July 1969. Much of the technology to get to the moon was new at the time. along with complex calculations for trajectory for a speed in space flight in a zero-gravity environment. Katherine and her team were an integral part of the preparation and execution of a successful moon landing. Another mission in which Katherine was an important figure was Apollo 13. She helped save this mission after an explosion damaged the spacecraft after launch. The objective of Apollo 13 was to be the third moon landing mission, but it did not go as planned. During Apollo 13, there was an explosion on board, causing 3 astronauts to be in mortal danger.
We've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
The damage was to the oxygen tanks and extra fuel cells, and the mission to the moon had been aborted. Katherine needed to quickly fix her calculations, and she learned that the spaceship needed to reach the far side of the moon in order for gravity to help bring the spacecraft back to Earth. Katherine was very crucial during this mission, and Apollo 13 was a prime example of the NASA team saving lives on the fly through their hard work, calculations, and dedication to their jobs. Katherine was very important to the NASA team in that she was a leader and a team player. For her amazing work involving space science, Katherine was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama. She had an extreme talent for calculations that no one else on the NASA team could even dream of having. NASA was changed forever by Katherine and her passion for what she did. Her most recent contribution to NASA has been to help with a potential Mars mission. Additionally, in her honor, a book named Hidden Figures was written and turned into a motion picture created by Margot Lee Shutterly. She shined a light on Katherine Johnson and her fellow African American women co-workers at NASA, such as Mary Jackson and Dorothy Vaughan. Here are some clips from the movie. This story was written and shown in great detail to show the challenges women faced from racial and gender inequality, but also how essential these women were to winning the space race. They performed the needed calculations and solved equations to create safe space missions, which was very difficult at the time because there was no guidebook. Instead, they were creating their own textbooks and rules. She was able to break many barriers to work in this industry and assumed a high rank in NASA and achieved an honorable name that made people want to have her on their team. In addition to being a strong woman, she participated in various world-changing events and was an essential asset to missions such as Apollo 11, Apollo 13, and the Glenn orbits. Without her essential calculations, most knew that the missions would have failed. She was one of the few African American women that worked as human calculators at NASA and changed the scope of women in power and the early explorations of space. She is still alive and vibrant at a young age of 101.
But my problem was to answer questions, and I did that to the best of my ability at all times, correct or incorrect. But that's my theory. Do your best all the time.